Thank you for joining us today. We will try to share our experience and knowledge on this interesting topic. So let me introduce myself. My name is Anna. I am project manager inside Agiliway company. And our guest star for today is Denis Mahirian. He is senior front-end developer and team lead at Agiliway. So today we will talk about strategic value of front-end planning, and we will know a lot of interesting things that will help you to plan your budget, to save your money. And we have some rules during our webinar. So Denis will start his knowledge sharing, and during this meeting, if you will have any questions to me or Denis, you can type your questions inside chat or QA section, and at the end of this meeting I will read all these questions, and Denis will answer to all of them. So I hope everything is clear for you. I saw that you typed some countries, so I hope you can see and hear us and everything goes okay. So, and basically that's all from me for right now. And Denis, please, you can start your knowledge sharing. We really appreciate this, and please feel free to start.
Okay, so let's start from the first very boring slide, like just a copy of the name of the presentation, but with the main phrase that we will use probably in every slide in my presentation. This is the planning. I mean, all what we'll talk about, it will be just planning of the planning. That will be the base theme of this presentation. But let's start from the few words about me. My name is Denis. I'm a senior front-end developer and a team lead on the project in Agiliway. And I've worked as the backend developer, as the front-end developer. Now I'm the developer and the team lead, and I have some information that I want to share you, and also I will use something like a wordplay against the front-end planning that we know from the business perspective. And we will talk about the front-end planning, not in business, but in the front-end side. So let's start with the agenda. Firstly, we will talk about actually what is the front-end planning. We will have a few definitions that we will use during our presentation, and we will talk about main factors of the plan of the good front-end planning. Then we will use we will speak about the main, probably one of the main phrases of this presentation, is that how does our project will look without front-end planning, or only the start of the project will look without any front-end planning. We'll also discuss the main outcomes from the front-end planning, and we will figure out in percents how it will cost in time. Then we will discuss pros and cons for each approach. That means we will see the difference between without planning project and without front-end planning project, and with the front-end planning project. After then, we'll try to understand how not something it's will be just the percents of the money that you can save based on some researches of the professors of the universities, like in Cambridge University professor and the some USA state professors. I will probably share the link for my for the articles that I read before and books, and then we will have a few conclusions and also some phrases, some experience. I will share some experience that I have got on my projects, and also we will have a few words about own cases. And then actually it will be the QA session, probably as always. So let's start with the definitions. We will use two definitions that we need to discuss, and we need to figure out how we will how and why I will use them in that way. First of all, team. Team, we mean something like a Scrum team, and it's mean we will have the 5 persons in a team, and that will be the basically Scrum team. Probably maximum person in the one team will be 7 persons. We will not talk about the 50 persons in a team or 100 persons in something like enterprise company. It will be the basic team in the basic project, but I will always use that word in this case. And front-end planning, we will not use front-end planning from the business perspective. I will explain you what word plane I will use when I will talk about the front-end planning, and we will find the differences and find the same positions or the same or something same between front-end planning in the developer world and in the business world. Let's just remember that words and that definitions and that explanations that I will use, and I have explained. So firstly, front-end planning in business terminology, probably all of you know what it means. There are a lot of books about business planning, about front-end planning in business, and let's just use few seconds to explain. The first 2 steps, it's about is that project useful, the main concept of that project, and how it will looks, and discuss some main concepts of the creation of that project, and probably some retros about the projects that already exist or already in production. Detailed scope, that's about the step that we use to understand the little details about the project, how it will look and how it looks inside, about some not very obvious option in the that project body, let's call it this case. And let's and we will also talk about the probably the most painful step, the decision and construction, but this one is about the business planning, but we will try to find something like an analogy between the front-end in development, front-end business planning in development, and front-end planning in the business. That's very important because it will affect all my presentation. So let's start with that 4 steps, but in the development world. The front-end planning, in our case, it will be 4 main steps in every front-end planning. I will there will be all steps in this planning are optional, except the last one, but they are important, and we can find something like we can find very similar things in the business version of this terminology or definition, and in the development world definition of the front-end planning. So the first one will be the UI UX research stuff. The second one will be front-end and UI UX teams discussion. I mean, when we start to explain the guys who will implement the functionality and we will give them explanation from the guys who will just design the idea. The third step will be building and implementation or integration, if you are talking about the already existing solution, something that we can just we will need just to implement. Just the first case is something like Magento or something like that. Actually, the platform that will give you a lot of stuff from the box. And the solution is the part when we will give the result of the previous 3 steps, or just something that we will realize that we will feel will be presentable as a solution. And let's try it, or just let's pick about every step one by one. The first one is the UI UX research. But firstly, I will explain what does that percents mean? The percents mean how many time you can spend on each area, and how many, and let's understand that every percent of time will have its all amount in money equality. So it's just the proposal, and all these percents are based on my own experience. It's something that I have seen in my project, and something that I can share with you, and that's only my vision of this case. The first one is the information collection. It's something that the UI UX team can collect from the other products, or from different branches, or from the same branches, because they need to find already existing solution, or solution are actually already in in production. I mean, that you can buy this thing, or just take the subscription of the stuff. I mean, already existing project. It's almost take a lot of time. The 30% actually, that's a great amount of time, but it's necessary to start with the research stuff, even for the UI UX team. And actually UI UX team have a lot of stuff to research and a lot of stuff to discuss inside the team. All that cases and all that options are enclosed in the one team of UI researchers. Next stuff is the analysis of all the previous results. That means if you will collect a lot of data, you need to analyze them and need to find the best solutions that will be suitable for your project and will be the most comfortable for the client, for you, or if you are the client of your own project, it will be also useful for you in any case. Even it's much better when you can use your project. The main idea of the analysis process is to find the most suitable solution based on the previous one. The next one is just creating first mocks. That means if you have found something that you can use in your project, you need to start creating something like a low fidelity mocks, and to be able, we can just call them the wireframes, to be able to present something and to make all your previous steps visible, and to just create something that you can demo. And there's a lot of tools that you can use, like InVision, like a Figma, or something like that, or Zeppelin, just the three items that I remember. And the next step is the mocks normalization. It's when you create something that you can use, but you need to normalize that mocks based on your project and on your own possibility and your own needs, to be able then show these mocks and discuss that mock with your front-end team. I mean, the team who will be almost with the engineers inside, and that's will be the last steps. As I said, all these steps are optional, and you can spend a different you can even change some steps, but all the steps probably will take this percent of time, and probably this percent of time will be the most suitable, or just something when you start thinking about the UI UX research, you can use that number to realize when it will be ready. But it's from my own experience. The second step is front-end and UI UX team discussions. It's something like when you have the decision, the engineers from front-end engineers will start discuss that solution with the UI UX team. The first one, of course, that's the decision demos, when designers will show the front-end guys all demonstrations that they actually prepared for that discussions, and they will explain why we use that item and how it will be suitable for our project and why. The next step will be the discussion and remarks. That's something like, if front-end team will not agree actually, I think almost all the time we have some items that will not agree with the UI UX team. So that's the common case. And then after that discussions, we will give a chance to the UI UX team to redesign something, to redesign something, and after that redesigns, we will start the polishing session. As you can see here, that's the planning in the planning. When you start planning the small stuff in a grade one, based on the prepared demos, the most important stuff that we already have something to show, but we need to discuss with guys who will implement this from the technical side and realize which variant are not very suitable, but it looks great and it looks fine and it looks very cool from the UX perspective and probably from the UI too. That's the very that's a very complicated step, but it's very important when two teams can work with each other. There's something like the idea and realization of the idea. The third step is building and implementation or integration strategy of integration strategy step. This means when you're using the decision, like as I said, the Magento, for example, that's the system that helps you to create something like a e-commerce online shops, then you will do the integration of the already existing functionality, but using your own designs, your own decisions, or something very custom stuff. And implementation is something that you will start from scratch. That's like the basic difference of that words. So mock clarification will take only 10% of time based on the previous steps. If some of previous steps are not existed or didn't exist, it means like it can take more time. But the hardest part is the creating based front-end architecture. That's mean front-end team will start creating the components, will start creating the basic styles for all that stuff that decision team designed, and all the stuff that they were discussed with each other. That's a very important part. It will take a lot of time, but that's probably the most important case, because after this realization, you will be able to see not just the picture, you will be able to see something that you can touch and something that you can test and see, something like a view. Let's call it probably the base, the most suitable word in this explanation. And after that, you will have something like a reviews and polish session. That's something when you prepare the structuring, preparing all the components, not just the basic components, something like complex components, but without backend side. That means that components can live their own life with something like a mock data that front-end guys can prepare for you or for the components, and then they will see. They will show these results for the client using some tools, that some visualization tools, or probably prepare the POC variant of the project. I mean, already that code will be ready to deploy, not just the stuff that is not useful. And the last step, not just, it will be demos. That means front-end team will demo again the results. They will probably can use some time. It's something, all that steps can be mixed. You can have the review and polish session, like for example the 10% and the 10% demos, and then you can do the reviews and polish session again. It's just the amount of time that it can take, and probably the default order, default steps order. And the last one step based on our 4 main steps, that's the solution. That's probably the hardest step in our front-end planning, because if you miss some steps or you didn't have enough time from that steps for the steps, it's very it can be very hard to get a right decision, to make decision. And that's why it's actually spend 100 of your times at left. You can do the reviews, the polishing stuff, the improvements, the redesigns, or small fixes, and actually everything, because you will not, you will never know what you will meet in the end. But if you spend a lot of time on the previous steps, looks like, or probably the solution will be much easier than you can do solution without any planning, but you can do or make decision or give the solution in any case. I mean, like that's only one required steps, the solution. You can even dream the solution, but it looks like it will not work. So, and let's talk about the advantages in we have talked a lot of advantages and a lot of about the correct, let's call it the correct way of the planning and why we have done that planning, or we want to lead this planning, and advantages in without planning way, because I didn't talk about the another and another way. First, you can provide a lot of ideas. When you don't have a lot of time to plan something, you can just have a lot of ideas. It's helpful because something like brainstorms and something like the ability to provide new ideas, is very simple and it's very useful. You always see instant results. I mean, when you provide the idea, you always start to visualize that idea or find something or some resource, visualization resource to show that idea. It's very fast. I mean, when you do not plan anything, and just give the solution, make the solution, or just start your project, it's always faster than spend a lot of time on the meetings, and it's cheap. Because as far as we understand, when you do not have a lot of people in a lot of teams or in one team, we need to spend some resources to give the time to that resources. I mean, let's call some teams are the resources of your project. So, but there is disadvantages in without planning way. I mean, let's probably describe the most common case, or the case that I have met a lot of times in my project. There are 5, let's just do it steps. Let's call it, how does it look without planning? So we have the idea and we need to always implement that idea in probably in iterational way. I mean, the first iteration, the second, the third one, the fourth iteration, and the fifth iteration of the idea. The first one, you will provide something like a decision, and actually it works fine. It's just the POC variant, or just the MVP variant of your idea that works fine. You spend not a lot of time, not a lot of money. Probably you need just a few developers. Probably you can make it without any designer, and it will work. Probably it sound like a great start. The second iteration will work with small problems, because you will spends a lot of time on the things that probably must be implementable and or must be very fast to implement. But without architectural part or without discussion part, people start rebuild all again and again the same components, the same part of your mechanism, or mechanism, I mean your project. The third iteration will be probably much harder than the previous one, because it works but not properly. That means if in previous steps it works and works properly, but with the small props and almost dead props, the props, I mean, let's call in the yellow pill, props means some time that you spend and spend again on the same details, or on the same options, or on the same items. The the third step means that it doesn't work properly and you have some bugs. That's the point when your bugs start. The fourth iteration is something went wrong. That's the point when all that without planning way start crashing. Well, actually, I understand that that's numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just the imaginable numbers. You can take this step like a 24 step, like a 30 step, doesn't matter, but it's just something like the probably let's something like we can feel, because when the number become more red, this means something is going wrong. This means when your project starts suffering from a lot of bugs, a lot of not properly work item, but you need to drive something. You need always to deliver something, and that new stuff must be delivered to your clients because you're actually in game. And the fifth point is, okay, but we need to fix few items first. That's mean when you cannot deploy anything, you cannot deliver anything new because you had a lot of technical debt, you had a lot of issue, a lot of bugs, a lot of a lot of customers start complicated about your project. Let's simplify that behavior, and this is the problem that you will meet. Okay, as I said before, it's not always the only fifth step. That can be the 100th and first step you can meet, but you will meet it in any case, because when you do not plan anything, your idea can be great, but all stuff you will do in any problem, in most of cases, we'll finish with that words. Okay, but we need to fix something before we will start something new. So based on my previous words, we can see the picture that actually help us to realize that two ways: without planning and with planning the decision. The long way, it's something like the planning, the decision with the front-end planning, I mean project with the front-end planning, with a lot of discussions, with a lot of times that a lot of time actually, yep, this abstract definition, and it's something like you will spend a reasonable time or times that will cost some amount of money, but it will save some amount of money in the perspective in future. So the long way will be harder. It's from the first steps, it looks very dangerous, and it looks like probably we need to change our way. But the shortcut from the first perspective looks much easier, but from the future perspective, it looks very long, because you will spend a lot of time, you'll spend a lot of money, but not in the start. You will spend all that resources in the end. I mean, on the last steps or of the creation of your project. If it's from the very optimistic perspective that your project will start. And let's probably discuss the possibility of cost and value of each component of the front-end planning in the web. So the UI UX discussions probably can be skipped. You can skip front-end and UI UX team discussions, and probably you can also skip the building of the implementation and or integration discussions. But what will be the price, or what will be the cost when you spend the UI UX plannings? You will probably use something that you can buy, like a templates, like some components that actually are ready, and just buy, for example, like a template from Joomla for Joomla or something like that. You can use the already implemented decision, but you will not. You will struggle without the unique of your own project, because you will be the same. All other companies will use almost the same things that you are using. You will you start struggling without that unique components, without any details that make your own project very suitable and very custom, let's call it in this case. When you will not use the perspective from the front end and UI UX team discussions, probably you will have some like an unpredictable behavior between two teams, because one team, for example, the UI UX team, can generate brilliant ideas, brilliant mugs, but it not very good from the front end engineer's perspective. I mean, not all of your ideas can be, or even not reasonable to implement in some cases, because everything that looks very beautiful, very smooth, and very animated has its own cost of the time, of the optimization process, and that's why we always need to find the balance, and that team discussions help you to find that balance between the very beautiful view and the very optimized user story flow. That's mean when you click on some item, see the animation, model stuff, just work as a user in your system. That's why you can skip this, but you need to understand that it will be or it can be very unpredictable in the future. All your brilliant ideas can be not very optimized, or vice versa. You can implement a very fast and very very optimized decision, but it will not be very suitable for your clients, because it can be very simple, it can be not very user-friendly, because it will be without UX perspectives that we want to meet in nowadays. And building and implementation or integration sessions or discussion, you can avoid this stuff, because if you didn't avoid previous one, or both of the previous one, you can start from the solution. And looks like when you will not build this architectural stuff, just implement new ideas, but that ideas will look good and will be suitable for the users, probably it will help you to reach some results. But from the expansion perspective, when you will try to make your project bigger, there will be a lot of problems. You will be happy when you will keep simple all the stuff, and you cannot grow very fast, or probably on some point of time you will not be able to grow, because architectural part is broken, and it will be easier to start new project and not to continue to code the legacy code, or just to not to continue work on the old idea or the old project. And in any case, you cannot avoid the solution. I mean, all that steps that you have done will help you to make a solution of your current project, because even without all that three parts, you will make a solution. You will find the way how to build your own solution. You will find your arguments, you will find your articles, your designs, your opinions, or just make some opinions, or make some designs. But the solution will be done, or will be ready to, let's call it, to deliver. In any case, I think these four parts are unavoidable. You need to do all of them, but we all know that we have resources and we need to spend them wisely. From the front-end planning in the business perspective, you need to plan wisely. From the web portal, let's call it in this case, it's very wisely to keep all these steps in a balance. And all my previous schemas show in percents from my own experience how much time you can spend but amount of time is actually yours. You can decide how many time you can spend and how many time actually you have. So probably that's all. And if there is any question, I'm glad to answer them. Anna, could you help me?
Sure. So guys, if you have any questions to Dennis, it's time to type them inside the chat. So this is what really eye-opening. Thank you. So from someone, okay, questions and other. How did front-end planning work on your projects, and how does it actually help you in real cases? It's a question from Anna. So thank you, Anna, for your question. Dennis, please.
I have worked on a lot of projects, and I will just use the case from the healthcare project when we always have the front-end plannings, probably one time per 2 weeks, and it helps us to realize how we will build our system and how that system will be reliable, and how to make and how our system will expand or just grow. And it's help our team, actually all of our teams. We have 7 teams in that project, and front-end planning was something that we cannot avoid. And probably that project actually on the production in nowadays, and it's more than 10 years of that project, because all of steps that we have done in the front end was planned, and we have a lot of meeting discussions, but the project is very reliable, and the project is much stronger than a lot of projects in the same branch, because they are understand what is planning. That was very helpful.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Guys, please feel free to ask any questions from Dennis. What is your experience with writing tests?
I've probably on my own, I have wrote a lot of tests, but for a lot of system. I mean, with the healthcare, I have the project with the financial systems. So looks like I have a lot of experience in the test, on the end-to-end tests, just a unit test, and tests actually help us to hold the system reliable and to help find or not make something like a bugs. So I have some experience here.
Thank you. So anything else? Do clients generally ask for lots of revisions?
We actually, clients always want to see the results. It's not something like a revision. It's something like they always want to spend resource, but more wisely, and they also want to spend less amount of resources. About the revisions, all our clients they always understand us, and they never talk, and they never want the revisions. They always want to see the results, and all the results that we bring them was they feel that result, that was very they have a lot of impact. So that's why almost all the time we did the right decisions from the first time. Probably only 2 times that we have one revision. That's where only 2 cases on my experience.
Thank you. Anyone else? Guys, please feel free to ask questions, and we will be glad to answer to all of them. how do you see the future of front-end? What language will dominate? Really interesting question from Paul.
There is in the future, probably, let's call the future next 10 years, that will be only the JavaScript, and probably if some language will be able to interpret as the JavaScript, like a Rust or something like that, it will have its own place in the front end world. Probably it will be JavaScript anyway. It will take the greatest part.
Thank you, Paul, for interesting question today. So anything else, you guys? Do you use SQL or Mongo-like architectures on your databases? It's from Victor.
Almost all the time I've used PostgreSQL. So I've used Mongo just like a store of the documents, probably something that don't need to be structured. So that was the almost all the cases to use in Mongo. But if I had some task-based SQL-based that I've used almost all the time, I've used PostgreSQL, and from the, let's call it, in my first project, I used my MySQL or MySQL almost all the time. Yeah, so I have some, but based on the architectural perspective, I didn't make the designs, but I just make some little improvements of the databases. Let's call it in this case.
So thank you again. Thank you very much, Victor. Saying to you, Denis. So guys, do you have any other questions? We have a couple minutes for question and answers. And after that, we will finish our webinar for today. This video will be saved and sent to you. Okay, backend technologies that you use. It was a long time ago, Denis. What backend technology did you use?
Probably if we talk about the technology, so I've used the Bittrex, that was the something like the CMF, like a content management framework. It's when we talk about PHP and Laravel and the Zen framework, and also I've used a lot of the second version. And from the Node.js perspective, I've used Fastified, Express, and if we are talking about only the frameworks or just the tools, probably that was, I have used a lot of technology just like Hello World projects, but in something more difficult than the Hello World, I use only those. So thanks.
Interesting question. Do PHP has a lot or relevance on your project? Does PHP has a lot or relevance on your project?
I can say just PHP. That's great language, and if you know how to use it, and start from the 7th versions, that's a great language to almost in all our case, just to write the API stuff or something like a programs or even the mobile stuff, but in small areas.
Okay. What else, guys? I have one question, Dennis. Why did you choose front-end side of life?
Because because I always, like probably almost all the people wants to see the instant results when you type something and need to see the results of that stuff that I have typed. See the animations, see this, see actually the results but in a view way when I can see them, not just see this the data. And that was probably almost that was my first thoughts when I started learning the front end, because when I worked as the backend developer, I liked that let's always see the data sets and worked with a lot of information, but but it was preferable to me to work with the instant view results, just be able to demo something and see it in my own.
Okay, I think that's it for today. And from my side and from Dan's side, I want to say thank you to all of you that you join us today, that you spend your time with us, got some new information. If you will have any questions, please feel free to connect with us. We will be glad to answer your questions, to provide some additional information. And this video will be sent to you with presentation so you can check it again. So maybe Dennis, you want to say a few words for guys that spent their time with us and with whom we talked today.
Thank you a lot. Firstly, thanks a lot for all for all of you, because time is very expensive, and it's very cool to understand that someone can share some information, my information with me, and just and I'm always glad to share something from other people, and but something that I have actually have as my own experience. And thanks for the questions. That I'm always glad to share some information, and I'm always glad to have someone who I can talk with.
So thank you guys, and I think it won't be our last webinar, so I hope we will see each other on our next webinars with Dennis and with me and with someone from Agiliway team. So thank you a lot. Have a nice evening, morning, afternoon, I don't know. So thank you to all of you to be with us today. Bye, guys.
Thanks.